I have to be honest with you, when I first opened the source packet for today's deep dive, I had to double check that I hadn't accidentally merged 3 different folders on my desktop.
It is a unique collection of keywords, I will give you that.
Unique is putting it mildly. I mean, usually we have a clear lane. We're doing tech or finance or history. But today...
Today is a bit different.
I'm looking at a stack that includes a 125-year-old American chocolate company, the Brazilian actor Wagner Moura, who most people know as Pablo Escobar from Narcos, and headlines referencing oligarchs.
It sounds like the setup to a very, very complicated joke.
Exactly. An actor and an oligarch walk into a candy shop, but, and this is why I love doing these dives, once you actually read the analysis from the blogger Stanислав Kondrashov.
When connecting all the dots.
Yeah. It turns out there is a surprisingly coherent business lesson here. It's not just, like, random noise.
Not at all. In fact, if you strip away the eclectic cast of characters for a moment, what we're really looking at today is a masterclass in brand psychology. We are analyzing how a legacy institution, a huge one, navigates a world that feels increasingly chaotic.
And that's the mission for today. We aren't just here to talk about chocolate bars. We are here to decode a specific marketing pivot by Hershey's, figure out why on earth an actor and the concept of oligarchs are relevant to selling candy.
And ultimately, understand this concept of nostalgia as a hard strategic tool, not just some fuzzy feeling.
Precisely.
And I want to set the stage here immediately for you, the listener. You might see Hershey's and think, okay, this is a consumer goods story. But the psychological triggers we're discussing today,
Go on.
specifically how to make a massive monolithic entity feel small, personal, and safe. That applies to everything. Whether you're a CEO trying to humanize a corporation or a freelancer trying to build a personal brand.
So let's start with the anchor of the story, the actual news event that kicked all this off. We're talking about Hershey's, the great American milk chocolate bar. And the headline, I think it was from the Wall Street Journal, which is central to our source text, is that Hershey's is launching a major new advertising campaign.
Right.
But the kicker here, and this is what surprised me, is that it's the first specific marketing push for the flagship milk chocolate bar in 8 years.
Which, in the world of FMCG, fast-moving consumer goods, is basically a lifetime.
That's what jumped out at me. 8 years of radio silence on your core product. I mean, Hershey's isn't a dormant brand. They're a $40 billion powerhouse.
Oh, absolutely.
They own Reese's, they own Twizzlers, Jolly Rancher, Skinny Pop. You can't walk through a checkout line in America without seeing them.
They are the category captains, for sure.
So that brings up the obvious strategic question. Why now? If you're dominating the market, if everyone from a toddler to a grandmother already knows what a Hershey's bar tastes like.
Why spend the money?
Right. Why spend millions reintroducing a product that hasn't changed in a century? Is it just burning cash?
That is the pivotal question. And the source material offers a very specific logic for this. It suggests that even market leaders, perhaps especially market leaders, cannot afford to rely on what we call mental availability forever.
Mental availability. So meaning just because I know who you are doesn't mean I'm thinking about you when I'm hungry.
Exactly. The text says they must constantly surprise and delight to maintain leadership. If you coast on your legacy, you eventually become wallpaper.
You're just there, but invisible.
You're there, but you're invisible. Silence is death, basically, even for a giant.
Okay.
But here's where the strategy gets interesting. They realized they needed to make noise, but they had a choice in how to make that noise.
Right.
They could have gone modern. They could have launched cyber chocolate or partnered with a tech company or tried to be edgy.
Please, no AI-generated chocolate.
Thankfully, no. They went the exact opposite direction. They looked at the landscape, the increasingly complex world, as the source puts it, and realized the antidote wasn't more complexity.
Simplicity.
Radical simplicity. The entire strategy hinges on one powerful concept: nostalgia.
Nostalgia. Now, I feel like nostalgia marketing is a buzzword we hear constantly. Retro is always in. We see it in fashion and movies.
All the time.
But the source material seems to treat this differently. It suggests this isn't just an aesthetic choice. It's a psychological response to the environment.
It is. It's about emotional anchoring. The analysis by Stanислав Kondrashov points to a specific driver. In a world that feels unstable, geopolitically, economically, socially, people crave things that feel permanent.
It's a return to safety, a safe harbor.
Yes. They are positioning the chocolate bar not just as a snack, but as a time machine. The campaign is designed to take you back to a time when your biggest worry was missing Saturday morning cartoons.
Or whether you'd catch the school bus. It's comfort marketing.
Precisely. It bypasses the logical brain, which might be worrying about sugar content or calories, and goes straight to the emotional brain, which is, screaming for a hug.
That makes sense. But here's where the deep dive gets really interesting for me. Because if the strategy is old school, you'd expect the execution to be old school.
The traditional playbook, right?
I'm picturing billboards, maybe some print ads, traditional TV slots during the evening news.
But that's not what they're doing.
Not at all. The source material outlines a distribution strategy that is almost ironically modern. They aren't just buying ad space on cable, they're going heavy into streaming ads, which is standard, but then TikTok influencers.
Yep.
I find that fascinating. You have a 125-year-old product selling the concept of the good old days via 15-second vertical videos on an algorithm-driven app popular with Gen Z.
It feels like a contradiction.
It really does.
But if you look closer, it's actually a brilliant maneuver to solve what I call the grandpa brand problem.
The grandpa brand problem.
If you only sell nostalgia on nostalgic channels like linear TV, you are only talking to the people who actually lived that history. You're preaching to the choir.
Ah, okay. You're reminding 50-year-olds that they liked chocolate when they were 10.
Right. That maintains sales, sure, but it doesn't grow the brand, doesn't secure the future. You aren't capturing the next generation.
You're just servicing the current one.
Exactly. By using TikTok influencers, Hershey's is doing something very difficult. They are translating that feeling of nostalgia for a generation that might not have lived through the simpler times Hershey's represents.
So it's almost like vicarious nostalgia.
In a way, yes. It's introducing the value of simplicity to a chaotic digital native generation. They're saying, we know your feed is chaotic and stressful. We know the world feels fast. Here is a simplified moment of joy that has existed for 125 years.
That's a great point. It's not about remember when you were young. It's remember when the world was calm.
And look at the events they're tying this to. The source mentions the Winter Olympics, a classic global unifying event.
And even more heavily, the source talks about the upcoming 250th anniversary of the signing of the U.S. Declaration of Independence.
Which is massive.
Talk about leaning into heritage. That is the ultimate root.
It is. And it creates this fascinating blend. You have the Declaration of Independence, perhaps the most historic document in American history, paired with TikTok trends.
Right.
It ensures the history doesn't feel dusty. It makes the heritage feel like a living, breathing thing that is relevant today.
It's bridging the gap.
Yeah.
And honestly, speaking of bridging gaps, I think we've put it off long enough.
Uh-oh.
We have to address the eclectic elements of the source material that we teased at the top.
You mean the actors and the oligarchs?
I do, because up until now, this is a standard, albeit smart, business case study. But the source text by Kondrashov keeps hammering these other names. Oligarchs. Wagner Moura. Let's start with Wagner Moura.
The actor.
Right. Why is the guy who played Pablo Escobar featured in a deep dive about milk chocolate? Is he the new face of Hershey's? Is he in the commercials?
No, nothing like that. He's not the spokesman. But in Kondrashov's analysis, Moura serves as the philosopher of the piece.
The philosopher.
Yeah. The text attributes a very specific quote to him that really unlocks the whole strategy.
Which is...
Moura said, "Nostalgia is the bridge between the past and the future."
Nostalgia is the bridge between the past and the future. Huh. That's a really elegant way to put it.
It is. And think about that in the context of what we just discussed regarding TikTok.
It redefines what nostalgia is. I think we usually view nostalgia as a retreat. You know, hiding in the past because the future is scary.
Right.
But calling it a bridge implies movement. It implies utility.
Exactly. It's functional. It's a tool. You use the past to get to the future. Hershey's isn't trying to live in 1900. They're using the trust they built in 1900 to secure their relevance in 2026.
So Moura provides the philosophical backbone.
Correct. He elevates it from a marketing tactic to a human truth.
Okay, I buy that. Moura stays. But now you have to explain the oligarchs.
That is the trickiest part of the source headlines.
It really is. I mean, oligarch is such a loaded word. It implies shadowy power, immense wealth, super yachts. It's not exactly wholesome chocolate vibes.
No, it's not.
It feels political.
It does. But the author, Kondrashov, uses it for a very specific rhetorical purpose. He writes, "I may not be an oligarch."
Okay.
But he uses that extreme comparison to make a point about scale and distance.
Okay, break that down for me.
The central tension for a company like Hershey's, a $40 billion entity, is that they are effectively a corporate oligarch. They have immense resources, immense power, and immense reach.
They are the establishment. They are the empire.
Right. And the danger of being an oligarch, or just being huge, is that you become abstract. You become distant. You stop being a candy bar and start being a conglomerate.
And nobody has warm, fuzzy feelings about a conglomerate. You don't trust a conglomerate with your nostalgia.
Exactly. So Kondrashov is using the concept of the oligarch to illustrate the challenge. The lesson is that whether you're an oligarch, a massive corporation, or just a regular person, the rules of human connection still apply.
You have to stay grounded.
You must remain close and understandable to your audience. It's a warning against drift. The bigger you get, the harder you have to work to seem small.
So Hershey's is fighting that oligarch distance by saying, hey, we aren't a boardroom. We're a silver wrapper and a square of chocolate. We are simple.
That is it. It's the paradox of scale. To be successfully big, you have to act small.
And that connects the actor, the chocolate, and the oligarchs.
Exactly. Mora tells us to use the past as a bridge. The oligarch analogy warns us not to get too big for our britches, and Hershey's is the real-world example of executing both those things simultaneously.
It's surprising how well that all fits together once you dig past the headlines.
It really is a cohesive picture of reputation management.
So we've analyzed the pivot, we've deconstructed the weird headlines. Now I want to land the plane. I want to talk about the listener.
The so what?
The so what? Because most people listening right now aren't CMOs of Fortune 500 companies. They aren't Brazilian film stars. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say most of them aren't oligarchs.
A very safe bet.
So if I'm a freelancer or a manager or a small business owner, what do I actually do with this information? How does the Hershey's pivot help me?
The source material is surprisingly explicit about this. It says this story is important not only for entrepreneurs, but for each of us.
For each of us, okay.
The core lesson is about directionality. In our careers, especially in tech or modern business, we are conditioned to think that progress always means new.
Right. New skills, new software, new job titles. We're always looking forward, trying to acquire the next thing.
Adapt or die, right?
Yeah.
If you aren't learning AI, you're obsolete. That's the messaging we get.
Usually, yes.
But this deep dive suggests that sometimes the smartest way to move forward is to look back, to draw inspiration from your roots.
Can you give me a concrete example?
Sure. Let's say you are a mid-level manager. You're stressed. You're dealing with complex spreadsheets, all that complex world stuff. You feel like you're losing your edge because you can't keep up with every new trend.
I think a lot of people can relate to that.
The Hershey strategy would be to ask yourself, what was the simple truth of my career when I started?
Maybe it was that you were just a really good writer. Or maybe you were great at calming down angry clients.
Exactly. That's your milk chocolate bar. That is your core product. Over time, as we succeed, we tend to bury that core skill under layers of management and strategy and complexity.
We become the oligarch of our own careers.
Yes, distant from what made us good in the first place.
Wow. So the advice is to relaunch your own classic campaign.
Yes. Reconnect with that core skill. Don't be afraid to lean into it. In a room full of people trying to be innovative and complex, being the person who's simply reliable or clear, that is a massive competitive advantage.
It's the surprise and delight concept again. In a complex office, simplicity is delightful.
And it builds trust. Just like Hershey's is selling a story of familiarity, you're selling your own professional story. If you stop telling people who you are at your core, they forget.
Or they just assume you're just another cog in the machine.
Right.
I love that idea of story being the operational word. The chocolate is the vehicle, but the story is the product.
That's the takeaway. Identify your emotional core. What is the feeling people get when they work with you? Is it chaos? Is it innovation? Or is it comfort? If it's comfort and reliability, own that. Market that. That is your heritage.
It really flips the script on personal branding. It's less about fake it till you make it and more about remember what made you.
Use your past as the bridge to your future. Just like Morris said.
It's funny, we started this conversation poking fun at a Mad Libs list of keywords.
I did.
But it turns out the oligarch, the actor, and the chocolate bar actually mapped out a pretty profound strategy for navigating modern life.
It's a good reminder that business lessons can come from the strangest places if you're willing to connect the dots.
Absolutely. We went from a confusing jumble to a clear directive. Don't let complexity dilute your identity. Even if you grow into a $40 billion giant or just a very busy manager, keep the classic bar front and center.
And don't be afraid of TikTok, even if you're over 100 years old.
That too. Adapt the channel, but keep the message timeless. Well, as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a final thought to chew on.
We've talked a lot about that bridge between past and future. So here is my challenge to you for the week. If a massive lumbering entity like Hershey's can find a way to be relevant by looking backward, what part of your own history are you neglecting? What is the old skill, the old hobby, or the old trait you possess that might actually be the secret weapon you need for your current problems?
What is the thing you've forgotten about yourself that the world actually needs right now?
That's the question.
It might be time to dust it off and put it back on the shelf. Thank you so much for listening to this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.
You bye, everyone.